Welcome to Resilience and Renewal in Your Third Act, a free online event featuring inspiring thought leaders and visionaries who can help you re-envision a life of fortitude and grace. Share this event with your friends and family, and come join us on Facebook at The Shift Network. And now your host, Sabrina Chaw.
Welcome, everyone. I am really excited to introduce you to Kaia. Kaia is the world-renowned oracle for an ascended master high console called the Sophia Dragon Tribe, and she is the international best-selling author of the Sophia Code, a modern sacred text of essential divine Christ revelations and spiritual initiations. Serving as a divine feminine advocate for close to 20 years, Kaia is a highly respected, leading-edge voice on the front lines of humanity's spiritual evolution, now being hailed as the next generation of revolutionary spiritual leadership. Kaia, welcome to the summit.
Oh, thank you so much for such a warm welcome, Sabrina. I'm so happy to be here with you and your community.
Oh, wow. Well, we welcome you and we need you, Kaia. Sophia Code is an amazing, amazing book. And you are one of the few speakers we're having on the summit who is under 50 years old because of who you are, what the transmission you've been given, the book that you wrote that is so potent and so needed, especially now when we're going through this pandemic time where feminine consciousness is needed more than ever to really turn things around because time is really of the essence now, right? So I really wanted to first ask you, yeah, right. You know it, I know it, and our audience knows it too. So I'm really glad you're here and thank you for joining us. So I wanted to ask you first, how did you get this transmission of, and if you can share it with us? I know you wrote a whole book on it, but you are an oracle, right? You are an oracle. So if you can describe a little bit, what was going on back then that in your life that you're just like, wow, all of a sudden, Sophia showed up and spoke to you in the way that she did?
Well, to really begin my journey of being an oracle, it really begins at the beginning of my life. In the preface of the Sophia Code, I write about surviving 18 years of atrocities. I was born into multiple military programs, and many of them were for psychic development and exploitation, as well as child rape, trafficking, and satanic ritual abuse. And amazingly, I survived these programs. And a big reason why I survived these programs is because from the earliest age, I was speaking with angels and ascended masters that were helping me keep my body alive and to stay in a resonance of the only thing that I could liken it to or explain it to be would be Christ consciousness, which I've come to now call Sophia Christ consciousness. And it was this awareness that no matter how enraged, no matter how unforgivable, no matter how enraged I felt or how unforgivable these acts were, I was able to maintain this connection with divine love, with the masters and with the angelic legions that were ultimately protecting me through this mission. And in that journey of surviving that, I became very, very, very psychically open. And in my early 20s, I managed to escape and put the pieces of my heart and my life back together. It took a lot of hard work and discipline and self-mastery to do so. And pretty early on in my early 20s, I discovered I could train these gifts to help other people. And so I was already professionally channeling and offering quantum healing from my mid-20s forward. And I think it was around the age of 30, I can't remember, but it was in my very early 30s that I was instructed by my guides to travel to Mount Shasta, California, and to live there for a winter. And it was in that time period, after professionally channeling for years, as well as working in corporate, other corporate positions as well, making a living, I had this larger than life oracular experience of being physically taken into the light of Sophia. All of physical reality disappeared, and I was taken consciously in the light of Sophia, and to meet this high council. And nothing in all of my previous experiences could have prepared me for how life altering that experience was. And I had seen a lot, both spiritually and physically, throughout the course of my life. So I knew that I had been contacted and that I had had an experience that was completely different. I also knew from surviving so many near-death experiences that when I was taken into the light to consciously speak to Sophia about this commission that she was giving to me to birth the Sophia Code here on Earth, I knew that I had reached the pinnacle of what I could do in this lifetime, that this was the mission that I was here to serve. And it was with beings that I could believe in 1,000%, many of which had already been supporting me in my recovery and in my survival the first half of my life. But when I met the High Council in the light of Sophia, and they spoke to me unceasingly about sovereignty and how they wanted humanity to become reconciled with its sovereign divinity, I realized I had found the beings in the higher dimensional realities that I could work with forever, that I would never get bored, and I could serve them wholeheartedly, because it wasn't about worshiping ascended masters as people above, as souls above me. They came to me with a mission where they said, we see you eye to eye and heart to heart in our shared and equal sovereignty, and you need to bring this message that this is how we want to work with humanity, because humanity needs to remember this about itself. And who better than to mirror back to them the truth of their sovereignty than ascended masters that they respect so much. So that's a little bit about that. It's a lot to summarize in a brief question and answer, but I hope that's helpful.
Oh, very beautiful. That's exactly what we wanted to know. Yes. And so, can you tell us more about the Sophia Code and the key codes and the Sophia Dragon Tribe, because they all constitute the Ascendant Masters that you're talking about. And I know there's a lot of them to go through, so you don't have to go through them all, but in essence, what are they all about? And how do we, especially as women over 50, how can we work with these Ascendant Masters to really up-level our own evolution and take leadership on this planet?
Okay, so if there was one takeaway that anyone should know about the Sophia Dragon Tribe, is that it is Sophia's ordained high council for activating humanity into the remembrance, reconciliation, and full embodiment of its sovereign divinity. So the Sophia Dragon Tribe is here to activate us, to awaken us, and to nurture our spiritual awakening, our spiritual slumber from the nightmare of enslavement on this planet, and to restore our consciousness back to the truth of our innate sovereign divinity, of humanity's innate holiness. The multiple global crises that we now face are due to the fact that humanity has been programmed to be enslaved to so many viral belief systems, to such a depth of shame about itself, that it is so easy for different power structures to prey upon humanity at this time, because humanity doesn't have a very good opinion of itself after a couple thousand years of patriarchal programming. And so this is why the Sophia Code has come to us as a modern sacred text filled with divine feminine Christ revelations on how we can embody our sovereign divinity, which is the solution to every single global crisis we now face. Um, our sovereign divinity is the healing of the rape consciousness that is preying upon our planet and upon our people. Our sovereign divinity is the solution to the creative genius downloads that we need to come back into harmony and alignment with the truth that we are here to be stewards of the earth and caretakers of our future generations, and not to steal from the earth or steal from our future generations. This is the time where we need leaders, especially leaders who have an extensive life experience and history with how to navigate how complex it is here on this planet, and how complex it is to be diplomatic enough to be able to speak about Christ consciousness, to speak about our sovereign divinity, when most people are programmed to ironically react from that truth, to push back. If you talk to many human beings about the truth of their sovereign divinity, they're going to get triggered initially. They're going to push back and say, oh, no, not me. I've been taught for 20, 30 years that God is above me and that I'm a fallen sinner, or I have to really work hard to earn my enlightenment. It's just like, you get it on both ends, Christian or Buddhist. In many traditional religions, there's this sense of prevailing inadequacy that somehow we have to overcome. And the truth that the Sophia Code is offering us through divine feminine Christ consciousness is that we are born innately whole, and we are absolutely whole. We are made in the image and likeness of our divine mother and divine father. And if we can reconcile with that, we can reconcile with the truth that our humanity is a chalice for our sovereign divinity, and that we have a divine genome within us that can be activated to operate our humanity from an entirely new context, an entirely new perspective that we often write about as Christ consciousness in the Sophia Code. So for me, what I have found is that someone in the third chapter of their life that is actually embodying their sovereignty, that is confident in who they are as a divine being, has the ability to make such a significant impact at this time on the planet. We have to understand that when we are learning how to embody Christ consciousness, what we're ultimately learning is how to parent ourselves and one another and all of humanity, and how to become spiritually mature. We've been so programmed to assume that our power structures outside of us are going to teach us how to be mature. But the power structures outside of us are teaching us how to be spiritual infants, how to expect others to do the heavy lifting for us. And the truth is, as sovereign creators, it is up to us to discover for ourselves what it means to truly live as sovereign beings, free of the codependent tendencies that can sabotage our life, hand over our power, sabotage our future generations' possibility of actually living in their sovereignty as well. It's like we're at a critical juncture right now. And what I love about the Sophia Code movement is that we have so many women and men that are in the third chapter of their life. And they often come to me and they say, Kaia, I have been waiting my whole life to find the Sophia Code. Where were you? Where have you been? And I said, well, it's here now. I'm here now. Our movement is here now. How are you going to step forward and bring forth this codex to humanity that I, sacrificed everything to birth into this world? How can we serve and lead together side by side and heart to heart? So out of the Sophia Code book, which is really it's a transmission from cover to cover, forwards and backwards, a full-on mystery school was birthed out of the Sophia Code teachings. And so now there's 3 programs, and one of which is how to become a certified leader of Sophia Circles, which walks individuals through every chapter of the Sophia Code. And so this is where I see universally where I've had people, and it's so interesting because the Sophia Code attracts people from even up to the ages of in their late 70s or 80s. And they come to me and sometimes at live events and they say, "Oh, I'm just so proud of you. And thanks for doing the good work because I'm retired." And I look at them and I say, "Wait, what? Thank you so much for thanking me. But how can any of us have the luxury of being retired from serving right now? We all are here to do our part. If we don't, like, it's going to require what I like to say is all wings on deck, all hands on deck to turn this ship around. We are facing so many pending global crises all at once. Everyone, especially those of us who have lived enough life to really understand the difference between what is actually a crisis and what's actually just drama. That's where I see so many leaders that are needed to be able to emerge forth at this time."
Powerful. Wow. Thank you so much, Kaia. Very passionate.
Yeah.
Well, and the Ascended Masters, I'm really curious about, because it's again, women over 50, like you say, we are ready. We're not birthing babies anymore. We have a life experience. We've harvested our wisdom. How do we get mentored by the Ascended Masters? I know your book describes it, but if you can sort of describe it in a nutshell, how do we begin?
You begin by reading the Sophia Code. If you start there, you will meet the most exceptional teachers in the realms of the Ascended Masters that you can partner with at this time. I can't speak for other realms. I can't speak for what other people channel. I can wholeheartedly, from a lifetime of experience at this point, speak on behalf of the Sophia Dragon Tribe. And as you walk through every chapter of the Sophia Code, what happens is that every key code mentor that's featured in the Sophia Code makes a commitment to you to mentor you 24 hours a day for the rest of your life. So we even put a disclaimer about that in chapter 1 of the Sophia Codes. We share that, by reading this book, you are authorizing your higher self to begin the process of placing your feet upon a pathway of accelerated growth and direct mentorship with the Sophia Dragon Tribe and with each of the key code mentors of the Sophia Dragon Tribe. So in section 2, we introduce you to 8 Ascended Master embodiments that are essential for us in the activation of our sovereign divinity. There are countless, there are innumerable Ascended Masters in the Sophia Dragon Tribe, but these first 8 key codes create a divine feminine Christ motherboard of consciousness that your consciousness can be upgraded by. And that's what's so significant about the Sophia Code. It's not a book. I mean, it's physically arriving in your mailbox in a book or at the store, but it's actually a living transmission. It's a blueprint. It is technology that once you come into contact with it, it begins to activate within you this operating system that already exists within you, which we call a divine genome that exists within every cell of your body. And what happens through meeting these 8 key codes in section 2 of the Sophia Code is you go through this process of activating this divine genome, all the crystalline chromosomes that are contained within this divine genome, which then creates this process of building bridges of light from the divine genome to your biological DNA. And we go extensively into this in chapter 2 of the Sophia Code. Now, what happens in section 2 of the Sophia Code is you meet each of these individual key code mentors, and you go through this initiation that you read out loud at your altar or in a sacred space or maybe out in nature. And in the process of using the resonance of your voice to walk through this initiation, you are meeting each of these Ascended Master guides eye to eye and heart to heart. and you are deciding for yourself if you're going to mentor with them. Now, what happens is once you make that decision, as you walk through each of these initiations, is your higher self gets to flip on the switches of your divine genome, and a whole series of events begins to happen where your body, heart, and mind begin to learn how to integrate the light of your higher self, which is the same thing as to say the light of your oversoul, which is descending into this world of form, which is, by the way, the source of your hologram that makes up your body. And so that process allows for an ever increasing amount of light to be descending from on high, from your source, from your oversoul, which is carried from your higher self, then into your body. We explain all of this in the book. Because your divine genome was crystalline and structured, there's no end to how much of your own source light, how much of your own soul's light that you can begin to embody within your human form, which then, by the way, changes your human form. I do not look the same way that I looked 20 years ago. This has been a process of my higher self coming in and truly taking over through my own free will decision for that to happen, to begin to operate me from a completely different context, was the context of, the purity and the holiness of my soul, which, by the way, is to say everyone is pure and everyone is holy. I'm not saying this is just me. It's like, I'm just sharing that as an example of what can happen. And so what happens is that, and this is why we created the Stargate 1 curriculum in the mystery school. That curriculum was born out of the desire that people said, well, I want to learn how to mentor with these masters the way you do. And so we created a 35 class series that's available on my website where people can go on this beautiful journey. And we have online support and a whole team angels and a whole online international community that you can connect with, where you can step inside this mystery school and explore the altar practices, explore the higher self embodiment practices, explore the rituals, explore the journaling that really establishes these mentor relationships in a profound way that teaches you how to create a very sovereign, healthy relationship with life. I often teach in the mystery school, you don't have a life. You don't have a life. Your life does not belong to you. But what you can have is a relationship with life. And so when you are operating from the consciousness of your higher self, the light streaming through you, your relationship with life completely changes. And so the process of learning how to mentor with the Ascended Masters in our Stargate 1 curriculum really offers you an opportunity to feel genuinely supported, because we understand that program was designed with the understanding that when you flip on all the switches of the divine genome, it's like blasting a dark room full of light. So this is what happens when you first activate the divine genome within you. There's so much unconscious suffering that you don't even realize is there. That when you start to flip on the lights of your own divinity within you, you become far more cognizant of things that you've been hiding from. You're far more cognizant of wounding that you've been running from. And so the reason why we created the mystery school was because we knew that becomes a dragon ride for a couple of years of how to integrate the ego structure and the pain body back into the light of your divinity. And so the way we work with the Ascended Masters is like, hey, these are your best friends. You need to call upon them every day. And so we have this method of calling upon them as a circle of light around you every day. And there's just a lot of practices that we offer. I think I'm going to stop there. I get really excited talking about the mystery school.
Well, I think it's a vehicle. I think you have every right to be excited because it came through because of this transmission, and to provide a vehicle for us to really explore what you're talking about really stepping into our divine sovereignty. I mean, that's what this summit is about, claiming our sovereignty. So this is very, very much in alignment with each other. And what fascinates me, Kaia Ra, is that the Sophia Code is an operating system, right? I know you mentioned like it provides an interface between our DNA and the divine genome. And what's really interesting is because the coronavirus is not a living thing either. It's a program. And so as you're talking, it just makes you think, wow, if our program was, if it got in us somehow, if we were activating our divine genome, if we were activating the interface between our divine genome and our DNA, the virus probably wouldn't affect us, right? Because it's just a program. It's just a program that can only be activated if we are not operating correctly, right? If we are not operating correctly.
Your divinity is invincible. Yeah. Your divinity is invincible. The actual true nature of your divinity is invincible. And so this is what the masters such as Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and masters such as Babaji, the Yogi Christ masters, this is what, depending on what their mission was and what they were here to reveal about the truth of divine nature through their human journey, which every human journey is unique in its mission. But the truth is that our divinity is invincible. And when your faith is steadfast, and your willingness to be truly sober in this lifetime, both abstaining from that which would sabotage your perfect health, as well as nurture your body, heart, and mind, and the truth of your invincible divine light and the truth of your invincible sovereignty. I mean, what actually happens is you begin to live from a resonance that we call a seventh plane or Sophia Christ consciousness resonance. And from that level of consciousness, it's like that consciousness is airdropping down into this physical reality. So the divine genome within every cell of your body exists at that resonance, at that frequency of consciousness. So if you've got the light from the source streaming down through your eighth chakra into your crown chakra, filling your body while simultaneously radiating out, pushing out from every cell within your body, there's no room for a virus or anything else that could be harmful to latch onto it. It's a really interesting time to receive this sacred text. When I channeled the Sophia Code, it took everything in my body, heart, and mind to complete this project, because it was such a physical birthing. Like, it was so physical to get this book out of my body. There were so many rituals that I had to perform and ceremonies that I had to perform to be able to anchor this much Christ consciousness from so many different perspectives of so many different masters within one comprehensive volume. What was so interesting for me about that is, at the time, I knew that I had channeled something that was timeless, but I don't think I completely understood how relevant it was for the times that we were going to be living in right now, starting in 2020. I remember feeling an enormous amount of pressurization within my heart of like, there are countless people waiting for this codex. And I knew it was because there was so much suffering in this world. But when we crossed the threshold of 2020, I knew, and the CV crisis happened. And it was like, all of a sudden, everybody was posting passages from Green Tara, because there's so much content about viral epidemics and overcoming viral epidemics through the truth of our sovereign divinity. And the Sophia Code went viral in a positive way, again, due to the CV crisis, which was an incredible thing for me to watch, because, a lot of people that are drawn to the codex in certain parts of the world, they just want kind of the celebrity of the ascended masters. But then you look at other parts of the world, like France, which is, we're about to release a French translation this summer. This fall. We're finishing up this summer and it's getting released this fall, which I'm so excited about. It's like, they're more interested in the quantum science of it. So when the CV outbreak happened, it was fascinating for me to see, finally, the American culture was actually starting to understand the depth of what the Sophia Code as a living transmission was communicating to our consciousness. It was just like, you are actually invincible, not just from this virus, but all viral epidemics. So are you paying attention now to what's really inside of you? So ironically, the CV crisis was one of the most interesting twists in the story of the Sophia Code as an international phenomenon.
I'm not surprised that Green Tara is speaking more during these times. I wonder if there are like other ascended masters that are especially speaking out that you want to point out that you've received a transmission from.
Absolutely. So the first 8 revealed key codes in the Sophia Code are in the following order. Isis, that we know from Egypt, as well as Hathor. Then there's Green Tara. And following Green Tara, we have Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene. Then we have Kuan Yin, White Buffalo Woman. And then the final key code is actually an angelic order, the highest angelic order of the Seraphim order. And they are called the Sophia Dragons. Which is we could spend a whole show just talking about that angelic order. But what's interesting for me as I was writing the Sophia Code was how each of these key codes intersect in addressing these times that we live in. Isis and Hathor are really here to help us understand our over-the-top ability to create new heavenly paradigms, to resource our creative genius, to tap into the multidimensional nature of our divinity, to take our humanity to the next level, far beyond what we believe is possible about ourselves. Green Tara is here to help us understand that, hey, this is an interstellar war that you're surviving right now on your planet. It's not just a global war of annihilation this is a story that's been playing out for centuries and not just on this planet. And so she really represents what it's going to take for us to make that significant evolutionary quantum leap at this time if we're going to survive as a species. And the depth of letting go that we're going to need to do to release our addictions to pain and suffering, and to step into the truth that it can be safe to embody our heaven on earth reality, which is an essential solution to the level of enslavement that is being perpetuated worldwide. Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, and Kuan Yin and White Buffalo Woman, they are some of our more recent ascended masters that many people have a more heartfelt connection with. And they are all about initiating us into our leadership, initiating us into our divine purpose, helping us get through all of our challenging feelings about stepping into our personal power and being seen as resources of support for others. In the Sophia Code, we receive these beautiful stories about what it was like for them to lead and serve in their own lifetimes. And what I love about especially Kuan Yin and Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene's revelations is they share about, they did not incarnate to lead at times that were hunky-dory. I mean, they were incarnating some very, very, very challenging situations where their life was even in danger for serving and leading in the ways that they were. And so we get to mentor with these incredible divine feminine Christ mentors. They say, look, there's no excuse for us to not all step up together. We did our part, and we're here supporting you from the higher realms to do your part. And you're not here alone. You can take refuge in our strength, but it is up to you to step forward and be seen just as we stepped forward. And when we're seen in our lifetime, so much so that we're still talking about them, a couple thousand years later. And that's really exciting to me. And it's exciting to me to feel what happens when you mentor at the Ascended Masters. You're no longer standing as some sort of lone wolf. You're walking with this angelic tribe of masters that have got your back, and they know how scary it can feel to step forward and be seen, but they're right there beside you. So you get to start to explore what it means to operate from a new perspective and a deeper place of courage. So I find what's really interesting for me is that they're all playing a unique role. It just depends on where people are coming to the Sophia Code movement, like what their background is. So a lot of people that have experienced abuse from Catholicism or fundamentalist Christianity, they're really drawn to Isis or Green Tara, or Hathor, or maybe people who have had strong past parallel life experiences in Egypt. They might feel more drawn to the Egyptian mentors. It's just what I love about the Sophia Code cosmology is that there's the right mentor here, no matter, for everyone. It really matters. Like, all that matters is that you get what you need. And it's such a wide berth of masters. It's really extraordinary how much we can be served by each of them.
Wow, thank you for just running through that all and naming them all so beautifully and potently. I know that was quite a job you just did. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's my job.
So I'm wondering, one of the things that I appreciate about Sophia Code is that it teaches us to appreciate, like, as equal teachers between the form and the formless, right?
Yeah.
The form and the formless. And so one of the things that we encounter as women over 50 is our fear of death. And you were just talking about, as we come into, like, mentorship with Ascended Masters and we start to develop this courage, I can see how we have a different relationship with death because of this courage, because not so much because we feel invincible, because invincibility means that we're invincible, nothing can take us down, but death really is the ability to face the letting go and to be dissolved, to really surrender. So I wonder, is there, in your experience and in working with people in the mystery school, have they had experiences where they've had a deeper, more surrendering experience or relationship with death between the form, their body, and the formless, which is now the abyss?
What a beautiful question. Thank you so much. Well, what's interesting for me is that I experienced so many near-death experiences in the first half of my life. And I think that many people that are drawn to the Sophia Code actually take a lot of refuge or solace in the knowledge that, what I brought back from that place, it points, the information that I was able to bring into this reality because of those death experiences points to such a larger context of life. And what I love about the Ascended Masters is that by the very definition of ascension, it reveals to our consciousness that there really isn't death. I mean, there's a physical releasing of the body, but our souls go on forever and our service goes on forever. I think that's what people are more afraid of is having to, serve for all of eternity. And what's interesting for me about mentoring with Ascended Masters is that, and what I think, especially watching initiates in our mystery school, is how excited they get when they've been activating their psychic centers long enough that they're able to connect with loved ones that have passed on the other side, because they finally feel safe enough to trust their intuition, or to feel maybe their mother or their grandmother speaking to them from the other side of reality, or a beloved someone that passed over. And also, when we mentor with the Ascended Masters, we are connecting into this resonance of continuity, this resonance of how all of our lifetimes are actually happening simultaneously. We're connecting into this resonance through the very architecture of discovering this multidimensional architecture within our body that is our higher self, that is this divine genome that's linking us to the greater part of ourselves, this eternal, omniscient, endless oversoul that goes on forever. And so when you you ping that larger part of you, like your human body is such a teeny, it's like a fraction of a fingernail compared to the totality of who you are. And what's so interesting for me about that is it starts to loosen up our grip of fear about what's going to happen after we leave. And hopefully it gets us really, really interested in what we can do while we're still here. The way I look at the day that I'm going to have to leave this planet is I look at it as a deadline. I'm like, that's my deadline. How much can I produce and create and serve and show up before I meet that deadline, right? And so with that said, what I find so comforting is that no matter how much I'm able to download in this lifetime, I know that my higher self and my oversoul can continue to serve and to be a part of whatever reality or whatever I believe in, or what brings great comfort or joy for me to continue to create from the higher realms or from a future incarnation, if that's what I wanted to choose. So it's like, there's so much freedom in our sovereignty. And one of the beautiful pearls that we can take from the Sophia Code is that your sovereignty is also sovereignty from death. And that doesn't, I'm not saying that to minimize the very natural fears that come up in the human body about dying and leaving this world. Those are biochemically hardwired fears that are meant to keep you alive as long as you can possibly stay alive. So it's not to dismiss that those fears aren't real, but the more time you spend in this mystery school cosmology, the more time you hang out with your friends in high places, the ascended masters, you realize, man, they left their body and then they ended up, serving like a bazillion times more than when they were in form. So I think that's what we're really scared of, is discovering our unlimited potential beyond form. And, our brief time in form is such a profound gift to hone and fine tune what we're going to do next with, our omniscient divinity. It's very humbling for a divine being to come into a human body. A human body, depending on the contracts that you come in with about what you came here to learn about, it can be very, very, very humbling, this human journey. And that's why I often call it a heroic journey. And so even as we're facing our fears of death, it's important to remember we're not as afraid of death as we think we are. We're actually quite more terrified of being truly alive with the time that we have. In my 20 years of counseling, I was counseling people in their third act by the time I was 25 years old. Like that was just real. And so I have counseled people for 20 years. And that is actually what I have found, is that there's a certain place that any of us can reach in our life where we're just comfortable enough, or we've achieved enough, or we're comfortable enough where we don't want to rock the boat and we don't want to keep expanding because our ego structure is like, well, it's just safe enough right here. What if I just hover here for the next 20 years? And it's just like, we're really afraid of pushing the envelope right up until that final day that we get to be here. And so we're not as afraid of death as we think we are. And it's important to understand we're actually terrified of living a life that could become a true legacy of love. And the reason for that, we teach about that in the mystery school and in the Stargate 2 curriculum, is like, the more you create, the more that you're here to share and to serve, the more responsibilities come with that. And our consciousness wants to resist that, but we don't have that luxury anymore. So fear of death, okay, I guess. I think it's more fear of life.
Wow, well, the way you said it, I absolutely agree. And it's such a different way of facing death. And it's so spacious and so expansive and so full of possibilities. And we don't normally associate death as possibilities, with the word possibilities. But what you're describing, it's like, it is. It's the potential is pretty astounding. Wow, Kaia, this has been such an incredible conversation, and I wish we had more time to tap into your wisdom, your transmissions, your beauty, your love that you're giving us right now. I know you're busy creating a lot to help transform this planet. When we're all with you and we walk with you, you walk with us. Thank you for the time that you spent with us.
Oh, it's been such an honor to be here with you, Sabrina. Thank you for your exceptional questions and for your service and for your community. So many blessings to you and the series. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And let me just ask you one last question. Do you have any final thoughts, a sentence or two you'd like to leave with our audience before we go?
The first is a teaching that comes from Kuan Yin. And I know through my embodied experience that it is true. And the teaching is that there is nothing that you have survived that you cannot heal through the Christ that lives already within you. The Christ being the Christ consciousness of your own oversoul. The second thing that I would like to share is that there is nothing more important than to activate your sovereign divine genome within every cell of your body in this lifetime. How you activate your divine genome in this lifetime is going to affect and change the course of human history within this lifetime. It will also simultaneously send a ripple effect into all of your parallel lifetimes happening now. The quantum mechanics of that and the effect that that could have on all your future timelines is astounding. And for all of our sake and for all of our children and for all of our children's children, I want to thank you for your willingness to activate your sovereign divinity with the Sophia Code in this lifetime. Thank you so much, Sabrina.
Wow, I'm deeply touched. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And viewers, you can find Kaia Ra at her website, kaiara.com. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We hope to see you on the next call.
Thank you for joining us for Resilience and Renewal in your third act. Transform fear and claim your sovereignty in uncertain times. Brought to you by the Shift Network. To learn more, visit thirdactsummit.com. To join our global community of people awakening to their divine humanity and taking inspired action, visit theshiftnetwork.com. Thank you again for gathering with us and for sharing this empowering path with your friends and family.